Welcome back to Twisted Theater, where what you invite into your home might not leave when you want it to. Tonight, I'm telling you a story someone lived, a story about a demon that doesn't just haunt rooms or objects, but seeps into your mind, twisting your reality. Once you hear this, you might never feel safe behind closed doors again. The demon in the apartment. My friend Marcus had always considered himself rational, the kind of man who laughed at stories of hauntings, curses, and demons. He was practical, grounded, a man who believed in science and logic. But the night it began, logic offered him no protection. He had just moved into a small apartment on the fifth floor of a rundown building. Nothing about it seemed special, no dark history, no rumors. Yet from the first night, Marcus felt it, a presence, unseen but undeniable, pressing against his chest like a weight. At first, he told himself it was stress from moving, the unfamiliar creaks and drafts of a new home, but the feeling only intensified. The shadows moved strangely, impossibly. A corner that should have been empty seemed thicker, darker, almost oily, stretching unnaturally across the wall. At night, he began hearing whispers, faint at first, like a voice carried on the wind, just at the edge of hearing. He tried to ignore it, but soon the whispers grew into words, softly calling his name, Marcus, Marcus. At first, it was almost comforting, familiar even, but the tone changed. It began to twist his memories, speaking phrases he had never told anyone, mocking him, dragging his guilt, his shame, and his fears into the light. By the third night, the entity had gained form. Marcus awoke to find a shadow crouching in the corner of his bedroom, elongated, pale, with hollow black eyes that seemed to absorb the light. Its skin was translucent, veins pulsing with dark liquid, fingers too long, curling unnaturally. It didn't move toward him, but its presence filled the room, pressing into him, suffocating him, making it impossible to breathe. Then it spoke, a voice like metal grinding through water. You belong to me. I've always been here, waiting. Marcus tried to escape. He ran to the door, but it was heavier than it should have been, as if resisting him. The hallways stretched, twisted, loops appearing where there should have been walls. Mirrors now reflected not just his image, but the shadow behind him, grinning silently, stretching wider than possible. Lights flickered, electronic devices pulsed and hummed with a rhythm that felt alive. Every surface, every reflection, every corner became an extension of the entity. It had learned him, his routines, his weaknesses, his fears, and it used them to trap him further. The dreams started next, vivid, waking nightmares where his apartment became a labyrinth. Floors opened into black voids, ceilings descended like crushing jaws, shadows moved independently, whispering his name and mocking his attempts to escape. Sometimes he would awaken from these dreams only to find subtle changes in his apartment, scratches on the walls, objects moved, a faint smell of something decayed and sweet in the air, like rot mixed with perfume. Each day blurred into the next. Marcus stopped trusting his senses. Even waking felt like being trapped inside a nightmare. Then came possession. Marcus would wake to find himself doing things he didn't remember deciding, standing by the window, whispering words in a voice not entirely his own, writing symbols he couldn't understand. The entity had seeped into him, learning how to control him subtly. At night, he would feel cold hands brushing his skin, fingers curling like claws, a presence pressing against his chest, whispering promises of pain if he resisted. His own reflection became a portal, sometimes moving independently, mocking him, grinning wider than he could, whispering secrets it shouldn't know. He tried priests, exorcists, and psychologists, but none could help. The demon didn't need a doorway, didn't need an invitation. It was patient, intelligent, and it thrived on fear. Marcus began noticing small signs everywhere. A shadow lingering too long behind a tree outside his window, the whisper of his name in the apartment lobby, the flicker of lights as he passed under them. His body betrayed him, his mind betrayed him. The demon learned his patterns, his thoughts, and began reshaping reality itself. He said the most terrifying moment came when he realized he could feel it inside his body, inside his chest, his arms, his eyes, as if it were feeding off his life, his very being. Marcus begged me to warn anyone who would listen. He said it didn't have to kill him to win. It only needed to twist his perception, break his will, invade his dreams, and make him aware of its constant presence. He said that one night of carelessness, one moment of doubt or distraction, and it would fully take him, mind, body, and soul. And now, I warn you, if you continue watching this story, subscribe, like, and share this video, because Marcus swears that the demon is patient. It waits, unseen, for attention, hesitation, fear. If you don't heed the warning, maybe tonight it will slip behind your eyes, whisper your name in the dark, and make your own apartment a prison. And as you sit there reading this story, maybe thinking you're safe, remember, some shadows don't belong to this world, but they can belong to you if you let them. And that was the demon in the apartment. Some believe Marcus lost his mind, that he was consumed by guilt, isolation, or paranoia. But others say his screams were heard long after he disappeared. The neighbors claim that sometimes late at night, the lights in his old apartment flicker on by themselves, and a shadow moves across the window, watching. They say if you listen carefully, you can hear whispering, faint, desperate, calling from inside the walls. Maybe Marcus never escaped. Maybe the demon didn't need to drag him to hell. Maybe it simply made his home there. Because evil doesn't always come from ancient places or cursed relics. Sometimes it grows in loneliness, feeds on silence, and finds a home in the corners we pretend not to see. So tonight, before you turn off the lights, take one last look at the dark corners of your room. If the shadows seem thicker, if the air feels heavier, don't blink, don't speak, because once it knows you're aware of it, once it knows you've heard its name, it's already begun to move. This has been Twisted Theater, where horror doesn't wait outside your door. It's already inside, breathing, listening, and smiling in the dark.